Hey there, welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I'm Sam Oches, editor-in-chief here at NRN, and this is the show where I give you an all-access pass to the restaurant industry's most influential decision-makers. This week, I'm talking with Maggie Farrell and Victor Chow, the Vice President of Marketing and the Vice President of Operations for KPOT, the fast-growing Korean barbecue and hot pot chain with a unique do-it-yourself experience at its core. According to this year's Technomic Top 500, KPOT grew its location count by 72% in 2024 and its sales by 34%. Already in 2025, it's opened more than 20 locations with 115 open today, and it didn't even exist until 2017. Now, mind you, KPOT is not a small footprint fast casual where you can punch these into any market or real estate and operate them with a small team. No, these are 8,000 square foot boxes with a complex menu and 70 to 80 team members. Maggie and Victor joined the podcast to talk about what makes KPOT so special, why it's resonating with American consumers today, and what has been key to keeping up its remarkable growth pace. In this interview, you will learn more about why experiential dining is riding high, but why that experience is in the eye of the beholder, why American consumers are hungry for a diversity of menu options, and why challenges don't seem challenging when you're part of a team who's tackling them together. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to Takeaway on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please also leave your feedback on those platforms, as it is a great way to share the show with new listeners. You can also follow me online where I am most active, which would be LinkedIn, or you can now follow me on TikTok at TakeawaySam. That's at TakeawaySam. Jumping now into my interview with KPOT's VP of Marketing, Maggie Farrell, and VP of Operations, Victor Chow. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview, as I will share my 5 takeaways from this discussion, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. Okay, I'm sitting down with Maggie Farrell, the Vice President of Marketing for KPOT, and Victor Chow, the Vice President of Operations for KPOT. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Sam. Great to be with you.
Sam, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So KPOT, this is a brand that is really kind of on a rocket ship trajectory at the moment, right? So, I mean, you guys know that better than anybody. The last couple of years, the growth has been truly explosive. And there's a lot going on here. The first thing I think that is so fascinating is we do see in general growth among Asian brands, that there's a lot of interest and demand for Asian concepts around the US right now. So you guys are obviously riding that wave. But then the hot pot experience, I think, very unique and different for so many American consumers, and they seem to be resonating with that. But there's a lot to sort of break open here and explore as to how KPOT really is establishing itself. But Maggie, I guess to start with you, for those who are not familiar with KPOT, what is this brand all about? Describe kind of the brand, the experience that people are missing out on if they haven't been.
Absolutely. So we like to say that KPOT is experiential dining at its best. You know, think of entertainment, if you will. So a unique hands-on experience, bringing together Korean barbecue and hot pot all under one roof. And I think that's one of the things that you just touched on, that typically you don't see both of those under one roof, let alone at one table. So we're really, really excited about what we're offering. And as we continue to grow, just some of the options that we're bringing to the market right now.
And it is really like a DIY experience, right? When you go to KPOT, you're sort of creating the experience that you want to create, right?
At your own time, at your own pace, with all of the ingredients. It's unique, 100%.
Yeah, so genuinely an experience. Victor, let's shift over to the operations of KPOT, because I mean, KPOT is a full service brand. It's a large footprint here, and you're handing a lot of power to the guest in that hot pot experience, especially, right? So walk me through operationally how this works. If I'm walking into a KPOT and I'm looking at this experience, what does that operation look like?
It's the typical KPOT is about 8,000 square feet. So it's a pretty big full service restaurant. We have a full bar. We have all you can eat hot pot and Korean barbecue. So sometimes for somebody who's never had it before, it's a lot to take in. Sometimes I still think it's a lot to take in when I enter one. But really the staff there is designed from when you enter the store and you meet the host or hostess, all the way to when you sit down and work with the servers and such. They're there to help, share with you what part of the game you're supposed to be at, how much fun it is in each and every procedure, and what you need to do. So when you feel sort of lost and it's overwhelming, what should I order? They jump in, they help you select. They offer up what are favorites at KPOT. They also tell you to go to the sauce bar and make your own sauces. They even give tips on favorite sauces that you can make. And then they come back and, customers come back, they sit down, and when the hot pot comes in, the Korean barbecue comes to the table. They even cook for you for the first round or two to make sure and show you this is how you sort of enjoy Korean barbecue or hot pot to its fullest. And as we've discussed, it's all you can eat. So there's a lot to be full about.
For sure. And what I hear when I hear that too is I hear value, which is like the word of the year. 2025, the economy's tough. Traffic is down for a lot of restaurants. So everybody's looking at value. Maggie, I imagine the value proposition here that you offer is that all you can eat, but also all you can eat with something that is a lot different than most people can get anywhere else.
Spot on. And it's all you can eat, and you're not sacrificing quality, right? So the meats that are being prepared, sliced fresh, the poultry, the beef, everything marinated right there. And it's really just exactly the way the guest wants it, right? You have all of the choices, but you're not in that decision paralysis mode when you get that giant 15-page menu. Aya tablets, you're looking at everything before you order it. So it really is, to Victor's point, that journey that starts as soon as you get there, and the education factor that our team plays with bringing somebody along in the KPOT experience.
Connecting with the consumer then to communicate this, obviously part of your job here, Maggie, in marketing, to be able to get into communities, tell them about KPOT. Again, you're going into a lot of communities that this is something that's brand new. Certainly the brand is brand new, but even just the experience. What is the strategy for connecting with customers to teach them about why they should come into KPOT?
Well, you said it. You said teach them. All of our marketing, all of our operations are really focused on that education factor, right? Because we're looking at merging Korean traditions with modern experiences, cooking practices, items that individuals might be unfamiliar with. And also, you have to take into consideration some of the markets that we're going into. We're hungry for new opportunities and new places to go. No pun intended, right? They were just looking for that diversity and options and menu and cuisines. And that's what the team has brought right to their community.
Sure. Okay, so I'm looking at numbers for 2024. According to Technomic, you guys, KPOT, have you guys crossed 100 units? Because I see 95 at the end of 2024. Is it 100 now?
Yeah, we're at 115 as of this recording.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you cruised past 100 way long ago. I'm in the rearview mirror here. So 115 locations, and this is a brand that did not even exist 10 years ago. Is that right? This is all very, very new.
That is very correct, Sam. Our first store was in 2017 in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And it was slow initially to build up just because, we had COVID, right? I think when I joined the company about 3 years ago, there was about 5 or 6 locations. So in the last 3 years, we've been adding anywhere from 30 to 40 locations a year.
That's astounding, especially in that full service 8,000 square foot footprint kind of mold here. Victor, I imagine that, from an operational perspective, scaling at that pace with an operation that's so, complex compared to a QSR fast casual. Has that been a challenge? What's been key to that rapid growth?
I think you are very correct, where there's a lot of balls in the air, especially initially, right? But with that said, I think Korean barbecue and hot pot, for a lot of people of my background or descent, it's very, very, it's comfort food. So we understand how those pieces sort of fit together, and it's really just putting it together and making sure the SOPs from construction to pre-opening to opening to post-opening, that everyone's aligned and on the same table. And we're always consistently and constantly updating. We're not perfect. We've learned things along the way where we're like, we should have done this. We could have done that. And we input these little pieces or these little bricks to this building. So as of today at 115 locations, we're actually relatively well oiled, relatively anyways.
Only getting better, which that should frighten everybody as you guys get more and more oiled, I suppose. So you start in New Jersey, but now, I think I told you this at some point, Maggie, but I live right around the corner from the Columbus KPOT by Polaris. Now, I'm ashamed to say, because I have 3 small children who would not, unfortunately, eat hot pot, I have not visited yet. I need to change that because I will drive by it all the time. I'm like, I got to get to KPOT. I got to get to KPOT. But I know we talked about the strategy of communities that you guys are moving into, because I think, Maggie, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are trying to move into parts of town where there is a strong presence of globally diverse concepts, right? Because you want to know that the people have an adventurous taste, right? What's been that strategy looking like?
Well, when we're looking at it, we're looking to kind of bring people together. And I think instead of, you think of the traditional model of a restaurant. You come in, you're greeted, you sit down. We're always looking for the opportunity to bring people together and walk them through something fun, right? It's an experience. And you can't just plop a restaurant in a market and say, hey, good luck, the doors are open, come in. So even our real estate and development team, they are identifying key markets that are really saying, people say, we want more, we want to try more things. And it's those areas that we then identify and work collaboratively together with them to say, okay, this is what they're looking for. These are the demographics. These are the ages. These are the household incomes. This is what people have been searching for. And really what we found, especially post-COVID, yes, delivery and third party, huge, and opportunities for us to continue to cater to individuals who can't sit for 2 hours, but also looking for that opportunity to say, hey, bring the family, bring your friends, because it is communal. And I think that's also the area that we're looking for.
Going back to the connecting to the communities, then once you open, I'm curious because here, especially in this post-COVID environment where, Instagram and TikTok are driving so much of the interest in brands these days, and especially when it comes to food, visual food experiences, which KPOT obviously delivers, are all the more important in resonating on the social channels. Maggie, how do you harness that? How do you leverage social media to show this fun experience you were describing earlier?
It is a huge part of our marketing strategy. When we work with influencers and we invite them in constantly, they reach out to us saying, hey, you opened my area, or we're going to be there. And we welcome them. I think the biggest thing is letting people know that anyone can enjoy it, and really seeing what the experience entails. Because at first, when you hear all you can eat for 2 hours, somebody might be like, I don't think I can do that. But once you see what that experience is, or once you're greeted by the team on site, and when Victor was saying, the team will walk you through and grill for you, it's supposed to let you know, hey, we're going to meet you where you are. I didn't know how to make Korean barbecue. I didn't know how to cook beef bulgogi. Victor showed me that, right? So I think that's really kind of the fun aspect of saying, hey, you can learn this. And if you're not interested in learning it, we'll do it with you, or better yet, we'll do it for you. So it's really kind of that showing and introducing it to individuals, especially on social, that it really is easy. And it's not supposed to scare anyone away with all of the options. It really just means you can have whatever you want at the pace that you want it.
Right. And then, Victor, the other part of that, of course, is that the post-pandemic restaurant climate has also included digital tools for ordering, off-premises service, and everybody. I mean, a lot of that, I want it my way that Maggie mentions has been, I want it, delivered to my couch, and I don't want to go into the restaurant to have that experience. And so, Victor, from an operational standpoint, how are you? Well, I guess two-part question is: are you engaging at that off-premises level, but also how are you using technology to engage with the customer?
That's a very good question. I always do believe that to get the full experience of a K-pot, you get to sit down with your family or friends and really enjoy it. But I don't necessarily have several hours to go sit in a restaurant and enjoy it with Maggie or you, Sam. But I still want to eat some Korean barbecue or some hot pot. So we've put together a menu that is, I think, pretty decently comprehensive. And we work with all the major third-party delivery companies to make sure we're on their platform and that for those who want it, they can get it, right? And we have, I think we just crossed our 50th location live on these platforms. And whether it be just for myself or in an office setting with coworkers, or even like a bigger catering event, which could be 20 to 30 people, we have something for everyone off premise as far as that goes. With regards to technology and operations in store, we've been consistently looking into different things to make, I guess, operations more fluid, more stable, and somewhat fun. The majority, if not all of our stores, they have tablet ordering. So you can actually order your own food and everyone's, it's similar to, let's say, buying something online. The only difference is you're looking at different cuts of meats and veggies and such, and you just order them and you may want 2 or 3. But you order it through this. The food comes out in about 5 minutes, fresh and prepared. And, then I think the servers can focus on serving, not just data input as far as what you want to eat, and you get a better relationship and an understanding of the restaurant itself.
Yeah. What about then the concept of innovation? Because when I think about how fast you guys are growing, when I see other restaurants that have done this in the past, there's a lot of you've got to get your operation buttoned up and ready to go so that you can slam on that accelerator and go. And it can be hard to innovate while you're growing so fast just because, you don't want to build the airplane while it's in the sky kind of a thing. Victor, how do you approach innovation in operations while you guys are growing so quickly?
That's a very fair question. And yes, sometimes you do have to build an airplane while you're flying. But with that said, really, it's ultimately focusing on the customer experience. Mm-hmm. And that's the first and foremost. After that, then we think about operational excellence and how these different bits and pieces, whether it be tablet ordering in the store or what do we add a new soup base that somebody may like. These are all various things that we look at. But, honestly, it's thinking about the customer. Can I make operations smoother for them so they have a more enjoyable experience? So whether it be, I think, marketing, ops, IT, everything, we all work together, and we're very customer centric. So ideas, if they don't really make sense from a customer perspective, we sort of, maybe that's more of a secondary or tertiary priority versus, if I do this idea, if I do this campaign, if I add this kind of technology in there, the customer will like it, they'll appreciate it, and they'll find, eating at a K-pot, more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Maggie, sort of a similar question for you because, as you scale, we've talked already about sort of that reaching the community, but as you scale, K-pot's going to become more of a household name. I mean, obviously, that footprint's going to expand geographically so that more and more people will know about this brand. How does that change your approach to marketing? Because you could theoretically go from a more community-based marketing approach to maybe, some national ad buys or whatever that might look like. So how does that change your thinking on things?
Well, it's twofold. I think the biggest thing is really making sure that everybody in an area knows that location is there for them, right? We're not just, and the experience is such that it's not just, I was there once, I had my fill. Because realistically, there is zero chance that you're going to be able to get through and try every single thing on the menu. So it really does leave you wanting more and wanting to come back, right? So then that's kind of that frequency component of how we can build that in the market and in the community. When it comes to just national advertising and what it is that we're focusing on right now, we are still very focused on building that brand awareness and letting people know what K-pot is. And then I think kind of secondary to that would be, okay, what K-pot is. How does it fit into the lifestyle of the individuals in the community? How can you be a fitness enthusiast and find that connection with K-pot, an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue and hot pot restaurant? You think of all you can eat and you think of somebody maybe just overeating and overindulging. And it's the complete opposite, right? It's picking and choosing and making those selections and being very conscious of that based on what some of those palates are. So I think by really leaning into that and those individual unique experiences, that's kind of where we're headed now, right? As we continue to focus on brand growth and market share there, also leaning into how KPOT, the brand, becomes Sam's KPOT and how you KPOT and how Victor KPOTs, as opposed to one overall blanket of this is how to, it's how you do is what we're looking to achieve.
So there's interesting implications to that, right? Which is like, you can collect data through loyalty programs, tailor experiences to that individual customer. What are those channels you're exploring for how you can personalize that experience, like you're talking about, Maggie?
Sure. So the POS system that we're using internally does allow for the data tracking and the loyalty programs, which has been huge. The customer engagement through QR codes to really identify who's coming into the restaurant, who wants to learn more, and then following them on their journey. When you think about just restaurants and brands overall, you go somewhere and you're ordering beef bulgogi, ribeye, shrimp, but you're never ordering chicken. You don't want to be talking about the chicken options to that individual, right? You want to let them know that they're available, but really lean into some of those other special items or premium options that they might be looking for. So I think that's always something that we're trying to pay a lot of attention to through the data collection, identifying what it is that those individuals are ordering. Do they like it spicy? Do they not? Is someone ordering vegetables only? Or are they coming in for hot pot only? And then also introducing that piece of where can we bridge the gap to identify and create the opportunity to try both? Because that's also one thing that we didn't talk about. We've talked about the Korean barbecue, we've talked about hot pot, but one of the things that when Victor and the team were talking through how we're going to position this, it's you can have one, you can have the other, or at the same time, you can have both, as long as the table decides, yeah, let's do this. Like, let's really sit down and experience everything KPOT has to offer.
Well, it's fascinating because, again, this idea of you have it your way, not to use the Burger King slogan, because it's different than what Burger King's doing, but like very much, I've had this conversation with a few people recently, which is that value is no longer a price point. Value is a comprehensive experience. So it's everything from quality of the food to the ambience of the restaurant to the hospitality, accessibility, and yes, price factors in, but watching value start to evolve like it has is really fascinating, because I think what you guys are doing is fitting perfectly into that, because yes, you're going to KPOT for a different value experience than you would go to fast food for a value experience, but you're still walking out feeling like, yeah, that was really worth that bang for the buck, whatever they paid, it still felt like it was worth it because of that sort of overall experience. And so I imagine you guys are always constantly trying to protect that experiential piece of it. Victor, from an operational standpoint, how do you feel like, you protect that, you move forward, and innovate as you can, but also protecting that fact that the value here is in an experience you're providing?
Well, I think Korean barbecue and Asian hot pot, originally it comes from, again, familial, communal background and origin. And you want to continue doing that, but open it up and share it with as many people as possible. So that's the DNA of this, not just of K-pot, but of Korean barbecue and Asian hot pot. So when we move further with innovations, with adding this, subtracting that, that's always, at the top of mind when we're thinking about it. What makes this interesting? What makes this fun? If we add this in, will this be even a better experience for our customers? And more likely than not, it usually has been. There's a lot of great foods out there, a lot of great brands out there. And I just think that we have a very unique niche in the market that most people, when they come to enjoy a meal with us or order takeout or even join us as a franchisee, it's very clear. And we're pretty protective about that niche. And we sort of, everything we do, we feed into that as well.
And to that end, I mean, looking ahead at growth, feels like there's, because you have that niche that is very, clearly carved out here, it seems like white space must be just like not infinite, but seemingly infinite. I mean, obviously you can't go into any community in America because you need some size to the market, but like there's a lot of communities out there that just don't have a K-pot that could use one. But Victor, I imagine you have to, finding the right, real estate. This is not so easy as punching in a 500 square foot, drive-through coffee brand that they're growing like a weed everywhere. You have to be really careful in that site selection and making sure you're doing that growth right. So Victor, what are the considerations you guys are kind of putting in there to make sure you're locating the K-pot in the right place?
Like you said, this is not just a very small 500 square foot, 1,000 square foot brand. We average about 8,000 square feet, full service. So we need to do our due diligence, which we have teams that do. Looking into the population size, what's around in that town, what's the nearby big town, if that's more of a suburb, etc. Can the population, can the demographic and psychographic support a K-pot? Do they want a K-pot? And on top of that, we have franchisees lined out the door asking, hey, I want a K-pot. I want to be the franchisee in my town. And then we look into that as well. So we have a long list of various towns and some states that we want to be in and some states that we're already in. And we're just in the process of going through them and, just going through a process of, vetting the location, vetting the franchisee, and constructing, go through the whole construction process and pre-opening and opening. And it's like that for I would say most, if not all, of our locations.
Okay. And is
the other way to put it is, when I look at these various locations early on, would I want to put money into it? It's not just, hey, let me sign somebody up and it's a him problem or her problem. Would I want to invest in this K-pot? If I feel comfortable about it, then I think the average person would feel comfortable about investing, a decent size of money to have a K-pot franchisee. With that said, we've been able to have, do really well sales-wise, and our franchisees are generally pretty happy with our relationship and how we've done so far. And I hope to continue that because for a lot of our franchisees, this is their, this is them putting in a lot of money to take care of themselves and their family. And I take that quite seriously.
Yeah. Is most of the system franchised? All of the system?
Yes, I would say all of them except for one store, which is our main training location.
Gotcha. This is, again, for a more complex operation. Obviously, that is a big decision to choose that franchisee because you're entrusting such a important experience and, again, more complex experience than your traditional QSR. So you guys must put a lot more time and attention into selecting franchisees.
We have a very robust system with regards to selecting franchisees and locations, and then actually the training part as well. Once, let's say, from an interview and paperwork perspective, you look pretty good as a franchisee, we invite you over for a 2-day interview in store, where we put you through the gamut of all things. Our training management, our training team does a in-depth write-up, strengths, weaknesses, area to improve, and we go from there. Then there's a full 5-week training program. Afterwards, you have to go on up to 2 openings for other stores. And that's not because I'm looking for free labor or cheap labor. It's because when you go to 1 or 2 openings and you're part of that new store opening team, you start thinking differently, especially if you have skin in the game with your own store. You're there to help out that store, but then you're like, oh, I should pay attention to this for my own store. Mm-hmm. I should worry about this. Oh, I forgot to do that. I should do that right now. And it sort of puts some of the real life pieces together once you go through the entire process.
Yeah. You mentioned labor, and I'm curious about that part of this because labor obviously is such a challenge for so many restaurants right now. And you guys being such a unique model because it's very DIY for the customer. You still have a kitchen, you still have things you're bringing out cooked to the guests, but the labor piece of this you must have to approach labor a little bit different than a lot of restaurants. How do you recruit the right employees to facilitate an experience such as what KPOT is providing, Victor?
Well, I think ultimately we can break that into two parts. One part is more front of the house or non-kitchen. I don't necessarily have to have somebody who has 20 years of serving experience, but I want somebody who's really passionate about learning and doing and understanding the KPOT way and passing that knowledge and passion over to our customers, right? The kitchen side of things, also, it's very important. Our kitchen is, I don't want to say easier, but they're not cooking all day, every day. There's a lot of prep work going on. So they have to be very diligent in the prep work side of things. As far as plating goes, for example, food presentation is up there for me. When you order bulgogi or KPOT steak, it has to come out a certain way. It has to look a certain way, because when it doesn't, it just doesn't look as appetizing. And, that is very important. And that's on the kitchen as well.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, I want to talk about challenges. Maggie, challenges in marketing. I imagine one of the challenges is just kind of getting through the noise, getting through the clutter. I mean, even just in Asian restaurant concepts, as I was mentioning before, there's such a huge wave crashing over America right now of Asian restaurants, which is awesome and great for the country. But it makes your job a little bit easier to get the attention of the guest. I mean, would you say that's a big challenge? What are some other challenges you feel like you face in marketing?
I think right now, identifying which platform in which market works and resonates the best is one of the struggles that we see constantly. Also, we talked about, the training process and how rigorous it is. That experience is so important. And each experience, when you go into one KPOT, you're expecting that same dynamic, guest-centric experience each and every time. So that I will say, it kind of counterbalances that challenge piece, right? Because I know that the restaurant that Victor's franchise partner opens, who just went through their training program and then their on-site training to open their restaurant, I know that their team is so ready. So when they're ready to turn on marketing, we go. And they are so excited to get and just announce to everyone that the restaurant is open. I'll also say we're setting up some of those local digital listing pages weeks in advance. And people wait for us to open. KPOT has a fanatical following. When somebody hears that KPOT is coming, they hear it on Monday, and on Wednesday, they're just like, are they open? When are you opening? And it's that excitement that we really lean into. Being worth the wait also, it takes time. But one of the biggest challenges I would say is really identifying within each market what's going to resonate, where are they getting their information? Also really leaning into that younger demographic that is guiding some of those household decisions, like where are we going? Where are we celebrating? We talked about third-party delivery. It can get there when I'm on the couch. But one of the other things is KPOT is there for some of those milestone moments. And that's also a really big key component into what we're talking about when we're leaning into marketing. And realistically, you have to be able to identify the various messages and making sure that they're being targeted to the appropriate people. But that, from the challenges, I would say that that's really the big one, is just making sure that those people who come in once have such a great time that they know that there's more where that came from and that we want to see them more often, and really then building that retention and frequency with them.
Yeah. Whew. You got a long list of challenges. It seems like you got them under control.
Yeah, it's a balance. It's a balance. And, Victor and I talk about this all the time. And I know, we spoke about it last year. When you work so collaboratively with your internal team and you're working with the ops team and real estate and development and training, and everybody has the same goal, those challenges really don't seem like challenges, things that you're overcoming, but you're overcoming them together, which makes it all seem worth it, especially when you're delivering such a fun experience.
Yeah, that's great. Well said. Victor, same question for you. Operationally, what do you see as being the biggest challenges right now?
To be very transparent, keeping up. To be honest with you, we average, like I said, about 40 restaurant openings a year. So if you do the math on that, that's about, 3 to 4 a month. Last month I opened up 5. This month I'm opening up 5. And it's really making sure that our internal operations team is ready to go. We're following up with each store as they're moving forward through the construction phase, and sending the best people possible to help ensure that when they open, that everyone's trained well and that they open smoothly. And then post-opening, working with them on different things from a management perspective so they can address and prioritize everything. Because I can put a list out of 20 things that they can focus on, but ultimately it's prioritizing those things. And I'm pretty lucky that our operations team is, I would say for us, I like to tell them, you got to be a jack of all trades, right? You have to understand enough about anything. And if something is so above your head, we have departments for it, but you're the first person they'll contact when there's something right, when there's something wrong. So you have to have some idea on how to solve it, or know when to push it to marketing or IT or legal or HR when that's right. But you can't just be, let me at Maggie and her team and just be done with it, because the operations team knows that location the best, knows that manager the best, knows that franchise partner the best, and understands those people from that perspective, because they talk with them on a daily basis.
So good problems to have, by the way, to have that luxury of growing so fast that it creates these problems. Good problem to have, but problem nonetheless. All right, last question for both of you. What is the thing you are most excited for KPOT here in the coming year or two? Victor, we'll start with you.
I tend to look at milestones, and I know it's it's just numbers at the end of the day, right? But I'm looking forward to that day when we hit 150 stores, and conversely, when we hit 200 stores. Because, again, I sort of intimated at this earlier, we're able to make an impact in the community. Not just the franchisee being a small business owner and making money to take care of themselves and their family, but every store that opens, they hire 70 to 80, maybe 90 employees. We become a part of the community, and, we get to open up a little bit of ourselves with that community, with that area, to sort of share what we do and how we do it. And I always find that, it's sort of hot to be Asian these days. I couldn't say that when I was a younger man or a boy, but BTS and boba tea and KBBQ and all that stuff. It's a good time to sort of share some of the things that we have with the greater audience, with the greater group of customers. And I think being a part of that for me is sort of why I'm still here today. It's not just about, putting butts in seats and doing numbers. That's all great and fine and dandy. Don't get me wrong. But it's really opening these stores up and being a part of each community and celebrating these successes with our franchisees and our communities.
That's great. All right, Maggie, final word for you. What's the thing you're most excited about for KPOT?
I have to tell you, we have some absolutely incredible culinary innovation that is happening in KPOT right now.
Okay.
I am very excited to see how we get to bring some of those opportunities and flavors to life and roll them out in some of the new locations that we're opening. As if there weren't enough options, Victor, culinary, ops, IT, everybody has been very hands-on in this super fun process of exploring and identifying what some of those markets and our existing guests are looking for. So I am super stoked for what's happening and what's to come in late 25.
That's awesome. Well, I am very excited for all of it and to watch as you guys grow. So Maggie, Farrell, and Victor Chow of KPOT, thank you guys both so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so
Sam.
much.
That was my interview with KPOT's VP of Marketing, Maggie Farrell, and VP of Operations, Victor Chow. So what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 5 takeaways. My first takeaway is that experiential dining is riding high, but experience is in the eye of the beholder. We've talked about experience a lot on the podcast, and it's been going on for years and years. Look, experience is kind of an overused word, sometimes really doesn't mean much. But what I can tell you is this: experience does not necessarily mean entertainment. It doesn't mean restaurants that are built around a sport or activity. Experience in the restaurant industry can mean anything around the five senses. It can mean hospitality. It can mean, yes, activities, but also activities that are facilitated around the menu. And KPOT is an example of that. KPOT is this, again, DIY experience where the customer comes in and they engage with hot pot at their table, or they engage with the Korean barbecue at their table. This is a unique experience. This is something that maybe similar to a Benihana or something like that. But K-Pot's kind of blazing the trail here for that Korean hot pot experience, and it's very much necessary for the team members to facilitate that, which we'll get to here in a second. But why I point out that experience is in the eye of the beholder is, again, this idea that when I say restaurant experience, or dining experience, it doesn't necessarily have to mean some very committed activity. It can sometimes mean the experience that the customer has with an employee across the counter. It could mean something, an off-premises experience as well. But why I pointed out here in these takeaways is to say that as we move forward into the future, as everybody's trying to get guests to come back, as sales and traffic tend to be flat for most restaurant companies, we hear more and more about why experience is so important to getting those customers, to giving them, their discretionary income. And that's because with so much competition out there in the marketplace, so many choices, guests want to have fun. They want to have a new experience. They want to make memories. And yes, they want to post on their social media. That's why a brand like Fogo de Chão is doing so well, right? That's why, yes, some of these entertainment concepts are doing well. And that's why K-Pot seems to be doing so well. This is an experience. It is unique. It's something you can't get really anywhere else. If you're out there trying to figure out what does my experience look like, remember, it doesn't have to be such a specific thing. It doesn't have to be such a specific activity. That the experience is in the eye of the beholder, and that person is going to be your guest. They're going to pay attention to their five senses, the experience they get with the employees, the experience they have with the menu, the experience they have inside your four walls, and you can tailor that to whatever that guest expectation is. But remember, just lean into this idea of experience in order to bring customers back into your doors. My second takeaway is that no matter the experience you want to create, your team is responsible for facilitating it. As I just said, your employees are key here, and that's especially true for K-Pot. So again, this experience that K-Pot has created with Korean hot pot, this is different. A lot of consumers are not used to this. Now, K-Pot, Victor and Maggie explained that they've done their research to find these markets where customers seem to be more interested and willing and engaging with that kind of a unique experience, or markets where there's already a lot of global concepts. So, some of those barriers are already overcome. But by and large, the Korean hot pot experience, doing it yourself, cooking your food yourself and eating it at the table, that's not something a lot of people have had the experience of doing. And so they have to overcome that hurdle too. But what's most important here, as Victor really laid out, is that the employees are responsible from the beginning of that experience to the end of that experience for making it fun, enjoyable, less intimidating. If the employee does not step in and show K-Pot guests how to do this, they might feel lost or confused. Maybe they don't ever want to come back because they didn't have very much fun with it because it was such a complex experience. So point here, though, is with whatever experience you're creating, your your employee is facilitating that experience from beginning to end. And it could be as simple as taking their order at the counter and bringing their food out to them, or it could be as complex as what K-Pot's doing. Either way, if you want to have an experience, you have to really intensely train your employees, recruit great employees, focus on retaining them so that you don't start to show some cracks around that experience that they are facilitating with your guests. My third takeaway is that tailoring a unique experience to each individual customer could be the wave of the future. Yes, I'm talking about experience a lot here. I realize I've said that word about 1,000 times already, but that is the point of what K-Pot is doing and the foundation for the incredible growth that they have had over the last couple of years. experience. But this takeaway here, I want to really home in on the individual customer and the experience that they're getting. I thought this was kind of fascinating. Maggie talked about this idea that, they want to create Sam's KPOT experience. They want to create John's KPOT experience, Sally's KPOT experience. They want to really tailor it to that guest and their needs. And the crazy thing is how much data is available now for KPOT and other restaurants to do this, to individualize the restaurant experience. And I say here that, this could be the wave of the future, because as I hear more and more from restaurants that they want to create an experience, I really do feel like that's going to get really noisy. That's going to get really kind of, a lot of restaurants are going to abuse that term. And, with any trend, you start to home in on a specific angle of that trend for how you set yourself apart and differentiate. And I think what Maggie's getting at here with KPOT, and where I think you could learn a lot too, is if you tailor the experience to that each guest, show them how it fits in their lifestyle, show them about how they can have power to choose their experience, show them how you are noticing what they're ordering and paying attention to what they prefer, what they like. You can do that with technology and with data, or you can do that with perceptive employees. However you do that, when they come in your doors, tailor the experience to them and how they want it and how they've had it before. And that is going to be powerful. I really do believe that that's going to become more and more of a trend in the industry as we collect more and more data, as we focus on experience as, key to restaurant success. It's going to come down to what every single guest wants out of that experience. My fourth takeaway is that American consumers are hungry for a diversity of menu options. No duh, you say. Of course, Sam, they've always wanted a diversity of menu options. But listen, I am just so floored right now by the surge in global concepts, and particularly Asian foods. This is exciting to see. We've been talking about this as an industry for years, which is, where are the big Asian chains? Where is the Chipotle of Asian food? Yes, we have Panda Express. Panda's done a remarkable job, but they're basically a list of one. When you look past Panda, there are a lot of smaller, mid-scale kind of Asian chains, but we've never really seen Asian food take off in a huge, huge way as far as multi-unit chains. That is starting to change. We see KPOT and so many other restaurant chains that have an Asian cuisine at the core really taking off. And that's because more than ever, Americans want a diversity of foods, flavors, cuisines. They want to break out of monotony. They don't want to just, get that burger and fries, that fried chicken on DoorDash like they did last time. They want to try something new. I'm convinced this is powered by social media. They see fun, flavorful, colorful foods on their social media platform of choice, and they want to try it. And Asian food is so perfect for that. It is such a beautiful cuisine. Well, all the Asian foods are beautiful cuisines and colorful, and they really pop on social media. And now that is what is in demand. If there's one other thing I'd point out, look at the rise in sauce innovation and beverage innovation. Because when you look at that, I think it really points to how customers want something different. They don't want the same old, same old. They want to try something new. Sauces are become incredibly popular to, offer those unique flavors. Beverages, now there's a range of different beverages you can get as we satisfy that demand. There's lessons here for everybody, which is to say, you might not be an Asian concept. You might be a pretty straightforward American concept, and that's okay. But what the KPOTs of the world are showing us is that the American consumer is hungry for something different. You're going to have to give that to them in some form or fashion. My fifth and final takeaway is that challenges don't seem challenging when you're part of a team tackling them together. KPOT has grown by over 100 units in the last 3 years. This is an insane growth trajectory, and it's an impressive growth trajectory considering the sheer scale of each individual KPOT location, as Victor laid out. But Maggie and Victor talked about the fact that, even though it's growing at such a fast speed, even though this seems seemingly complex, they have a team that communicates with each other, that builds relationships with, throughout the system, and that is really linking arm in arm to support that growth together. You need a team like that for yourself, whether you're growing quickly or not. Any challenge that comes your way shouldn't be tackled alone. It should be tackled with a team of people prepared to handle whatever comes your way. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again and talk to you next week.